I was sitting at my desk during a regular Tuesday afternoon when my phone buzzed with a fraud alert. $85,000 charged to my gold card. My hands started shaking as I read the merchant description. Luxury Iceland tour package. I immediately called my mother, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. She laughed. Actually laughed. Then she said my sister deserved this trip after her recent breakup, that I was just jealous because I worked too much and never knew how to have fun. The call ended abruptly. I sat there staring at my phone, realizing my family had been planning this betrayal behind my back for weeks. My name is Madeline, and I'm 32 years old. I work as a financial analyst here in Denver, and I've spent the last decade building my career, my credit score, and my savings account from absolutely nothing. Every dollar I have, I earned through 60-hour work weeks, night classes for my certifications, and sacrificing the kind of carefree 20s most people get to enjoy. I'm the older daughter in my family. My younger sister Brielle is 26, and we've always been different. After our father passed away 12 years ago from a sudden heart attack, I became the one who held everything together. I was 20, just starting college, and I dropped down to part-time classes so I could work full-time and help my mother with bills. Brielle was 14, and everyone agreed she needed stability, needed to not have her life disrupted. So I disrupted mine instead. 5 years ago, my mother was struggling financially. Her job as a receptionist at a dental office didn't pay much, and she was facing the possibility of losing the apartment we'd moved into after selling our childhood home. She came to me, tears in her eyes, asking if there was any way I could help her buy a small house. She'd found one in a decent neighborhood, nothing fancy, but it needed a co-signer with better credit and a down payment she didn't have. I'd been saving money for my own place, had about $30,000 set aside. I loved my mother. I wanted to help. So I became a co-owner on that house, put down my entire savings as the down payment, and committed to a mortgage I'd be equally responsible for. My mother promised she'd make the payments, that this was her fresh start, that she'd never forget what I did for her. Brielle has always been the favorite. I understood it, even when it hurt. She was younger when Dad died. She struggled more visibly with the loss, and my mother's protective instincts kicked into overdrive. While I was working and studying, Brielle was encouraged to explore herself, to not rush into anything, to take her time figuring out life. She's bounced between retail jobs, coffee shops, a brief stint as a yoga instructor, and long periods of unemployment where she was finding herself. I never resented her for it. Or at least, I told myself I didn't. She was my little sister. I wanted her to be happy. 3 months ago, Brielle's boyfriend of 2 years broke up with her. She was devastated, and the whole family rallied around her. My mother took time off work to be with her. Our Aunt Patricia drove in from Colorado Springs to provide support. Everyone was focused on helping Brielle heal. Last year, my mother's car broke down, and the repair cost was more than she had. She asked if she could use one of my credit cards for emergencies only, just to have as a backup. I gave her access to one card, with a $10,000 limit, made her promise it was only for true emergencies. She swore she understood. Now, sitting at my desk, I pulled up the full credit card statement on my computer screen. My stomach turned as I scrolled through the charges. 4 first-class round-trip tickets to Iceland, not just for my mother and Brielle, but also for Aunt Patricia and my cousin Dylan. A 5-star hotel in Reykjavik for 2 weeks, the kind of place with a personal concierge and rooms that cost $800 per night. Excursions including private glacier hiking tours, Northern Lights photography expeditions with a professional guide, a private chef experience, spa packages at the Blue Lagoon, horseback riding on black sand beaches, helicopter tours over volcanoes. This wasn't a simple vacation. This was a luxury trip most people save for years to afford. I tried calling again. My mother didn't answer. Brielle didn't answer. I called Aunt Patricia, straight to voicemail. I called my credit card company, hoping desperately there'd been some mistake, some fraud I could report. The representative checked the account. All charges were legitimate, authorized with my full card number, expiration date, and security code. The purchases had been made over the past week, with the flights booked 6 weeks ago. I sat in my cubicle, surrounded by coworkers typing away at their keyboards, completely unaware that my world was crumbling. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "We're at the airport. Don't ruin this for your sister. She needs this. You can afford it. Stop being selfish." I read it 3 times. Each time, the words felt more surreal. Then I noticed she'd sent it to a group chat. I wasn't part of the group, but she'd accidentally included me on this one message. Before I could process that, another text came through, this time directly to me. "Your sister has been through so much. This trip will help her heal. Be a good sister for once and let this go. We'll talk when we get back." I looked at the credit card statement again. $85,000. More than twice my annual salary. Charges that would take me years to pay off, even with my decent income and careful budgeting. They knew I'd find out. They just didn't care. They counted on me being too passive, too afraid of conflict, too conditioned to put family first, no matter what it cost me. And the devastating part was, they were right to assume that. Because my first instinct, even as I sat there shaking with shock and hurt, was to figure out how I could make the payments work, how I could adjust my budget, maybe pick up freelance work, cut back on everything, and just quietly absorb this massive financial blow. That's who I'd always been. The one who absorbed things. The one who sacrificed. The one who made it work. No matter what it cost me personally. But something felt different this time. Maybe it was the casual cruelty in my mother's text. Maybe it was seeing that number, $85,000, and realizing how little they valued me beyond my ability to provide for them. Maybe it was the phrase, "Be a good sister for once," as if my entire adult life hadn't been spent being exactly that. I closed my laptop. I told my supervisor I had a family emergency and needed to leave. I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning with thoughts I'd never allowed myself to fully think before. I didn't go to my apartment. Instead, I drove directly to the family house. The one I was legally a co-owner of. The one my $30,000 had helped purchase. I still had a key. I'd never given it up, even though I rarely used it anymore. The house was in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and well-maintained lawns. I'd always loved this area. I'd imagined that one day, when my mother was older, maybe the house would become fully mine and I could live here, finally have the home I'd delayed for so long. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The living room was a mess. Mail piled up on the coffee table, some of it dating back 3 weeks. Dishes in the sink. A suitcase left open in the hallway, clothes spilling out like they'd grabbed what they needed and abandoned the rest. I walked through the house slowly, taking in every detail. This place I'd helped create, helped maintain, helped pay for. I'd spent countless weekends here over the years, repainting rooms when my mother wanted a change, fixing the leaky faucet in the guest bathroom, replacing the broken tiles in the kitchen backsplash. My money, my labor, my time. In my mother's bedroom, I found what I was looking for. Printed itineraries stacked neatly on her dresser, booking confirmations with dates going back 6 weeks, a folder labeled Iceland trip with color-coded schedules, restaurant reservations, and tour bookings. 6 weeks of planning. This wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. Then I noticed my mother's iPad charging on her nightstand. I knew her passcode. She'd never bothered to change it from the default one I'd set up for her years ago. I picked it up, unlocked it, and opened her messages. There was a group chat called Iceland Squad. My mother, Brielle, Aunt Patricia, and my cousin Dylan. I started reading from the beginning, from 6 weeks ago. Brielle had written, "I really need this trip. I can't stop thinking about him. I need to get away." My mother responded, "You deserve something special, honey. Let me think about how we can make this happen." Aunt Patricia, "What about that travel package I saw? The Iceland Northern Lights tour? It looks amazing." Dylan, "That's like $20,000 per person, though. A pause in the conversation, then my mother again. What if we used Maitland's card? She gave me access for emergencies, and honestly, this is an emergency. Brielle's mental health is an emergency. My hands started trembling as I continued reading. Brielle, do you think she'd be okay with that? My mother. She owes you anyway. She's always had everything easy. Good job. Good credit. Savings. She doesn't understand struggle like you do. Aunt Patricia. Are you sure? That seems like a lot. My mother. Don't worry. She won't do anything. She never does. She'll just pay it off quietly, like always. That's who Madeline is. She complains a little, then she handles it. Brielle, with 3 laughing emojis. You're right. She's so predictable. Dylan. If you're sure it's okay, I'm in. I've never been to Iceland. My mother. It's settled then. Let's book everything first class. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. Madeline makes good money. She can afford it. Let's book everything. First, the messages continued. Casual discussions about excursions to add, whether to upgrade to the premium spa package, jokes about how Madeline would react. Aunt Patricia at one point. Maybe we should at least tell her first. My mother. And give her a chance to say no? We're doing this for Brielle. Madeline will understand eventually. That's what big sisters are for, right? Supporting family. Multiple laughing emojis throughout the thread. Screenshots of luxury hotels. Links to expensive restaurants. Not one moment of guilt or hesitation after that initial question from Patricia. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I sat down on my mother's bed, still holding the iPad, reading message after message. They'd discussed the trip almost daily. They'd debated between Iceland and Switzerland, ultimately choosing Iceland because the package was more comprehensive. They'd laughed about using my money. They'd dismissed any concern about whether it was right. I set the iPad down carefully and walked back to the living room. On the coffee table, underneath some magazines, I found a journal. Brielle's handwriting on the cover. I'd never been the type to read someone's private journal, but I was far past normal boundaries now. I opened it. The most recent entry was dated 3 days ago, finally getting what I deserve. Madeline has had the perfect life, while I've struggled with heartbreak and uncertainty. Mom's right. She owes me for always being the favorite. The successful one. The one everyone's proud of. This trip will change everything for me. I can feel it. Mom says not to feel guilty, that Madeline can afford this, and it's really the least she can do for family. I can't wait to see the northern lights. I can't wait to feel free. I closed the journal. I looked around the house. At the couch, I'd helped pick out. The dining table I'd assembled. The framed photos on the wall, including several of family gatherings I'd hosted and paid for. They saw me as a resource. An ATM machine with a heartbeat. Someone who existed to fund their dreams, while putting my own on hold indefinitely. My phone buzzed. A notification from social media. Brielle had posted a photo from the airport. She was holding a champagne flute, wearing a new outfit I'd never seen before, probably also charged to my card. The caption read, "First class to Iceland. Some of us know how to live. Thanks to my amazing family," with a row of heart and airplane emojis. The comments were already rolling in. Friends congratulating her, saying she deserved it, asking if they could join next time. I sat on that couch for another hour, not moving, just thinking. Then I walked back to my mother's room and looked through her filing cabinet. I found something that made my blood run cold. A business card from a real estate attorney. A handwritten note on the back. Consultation removing Madeline from deed. She gifted the down payment. No legal claim to ownership. Can file for sole ownership based on primary residence status. The consultation date was 2 weeks ago. They weren't just using me. They were planning to cut me out entirely. Take the house I'd helped buy. Erase my name from the deed. And leave me with nothing, while they built their lives on my foundation. I took photos of everything with my phone. The group chat messages, the booking confirmations, the attorney's business card, all of it. Then I left the house, locked the door behind me, and drove home. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table until 3 in the morning with my laptop open, going through every document related to the house. I'd kept meticulous records. It's what I do as a financial analyst. Keep track of numbers, maintain documentation, prepare for contingencies. I pulled the original deed from my files. There it was, in legal, black and white. My name and my mother's name as co-owners, with equal rights and responsibilities. The mortgage was in both our names. We were joint owners in every legal sense. I reviewed the co-ownership agreement we'd signed when we purchased the house. I remembered the real estate attorney explaining the clauses to us. My mother had barely paid attention, eager to just sign and move forward. I'd read every word. There was a clause I'd forgotten about. Either party could initiate a sale of the property with 30 days' notice to the other party, or immediately, without notice, if there was evidence of financial malfeasance or fraud committed by either party that put the property at risk. Unauthorized use of credit cards qualified as financial fraud. I went through my bank statements, my payment records. I had proof of my $30,000 down payment, transferred directly from my savings account 5 years ago. I had copies of every mortgage payment I'd made, which was roughly half of them over the years, despite my mother's promise to handle all payments herself. I had receipts for the new roof 2 years ago, $8,000 I'd paid when my mother said she couldn't afford her half. The furnace replacement last winter, another $6,000. Fresh paint throughout, new appliances when the old ones died, a new fence in the backyard. I'd put at least $60,000 into that house beyond the original down payment. At 3:15 in the morning, I composed an email to a real estate attorney I knew professionally. We'd worked together on some client transactions. I explained my situation in clear, factual terms. Unauthorized use of credit card, $85,000 in charges, co-ownership of property, evidence of planned deed fraud. I hit send and tried to sleep. I couldn't. By 8 in the morning, I had a response. The attorney had read my email, reviewed the documents I'd attached, and provided a preliminary assessment. I had strong legal grounds to initiate an immediate sale of the property. The unauthorized credit card use constituted financial fraud. My co-ownership was ironclad. My mother's attempt to consult an attorney about removing me from the deed actually strengthened my position, as it showed intent to defraud. I called him at 9 when his office opened. We spoke for 45 minutes. He outlined my options, explained the process, warned me about potential family fallout. I told him I understood. He asked if I was sure. I told him I'd never been more sure of anything. By 10, I'd contacted a real estate agent I knew from my work in finance. Her name was Janet, and she was one of the best in Denver. I explained that I needed to sell a house quickly due to family circumstances I'd rather not detail. She asked if I could meet her at the property that afternoon. At 2 o'clock, Janet walked through the house with me. She took notes, measured rooms, assessed the condition. The house was in a desirable neighborhood, well maintained, despite the current mess, with good bones and recent updates. The market was strong. Houses in this area were selling fast. She gave me her assessment. Current market value, approximately $420,000. There was still $180,000 remaining on the mortgage. After the mortgage payoff and standard selling costs, including agent fees and closing costs, that would leave roughly $240,000 in equity. As a 50% co-owner, who'd also contributed the down payment, I was legally entitled to half the equity plus recovery of my documented down payment and major improvements. Janet estimated I'd walk away with approximately $140,000 to $150,000, depending on final selling costs and how we structured the settlement. My mother would be entitled to her portion as well, minus her half of the remaining mortgage, and her responsibility for half the fraud she'd committed. The attorney would handle those calculations. I sat in the empty living room after Janet left, my decision weighing on me like a physical presence. I thought about every time I'd helped my family. My mother's medical bills, when she had pneumonia, and no insurance. $3,000 I'd paid without hesitation. Brielle's car insurance that I'd covered for 2 years when she was between jobs. Roughly $2,400 total. Groceries I'd bought, utilities I'd helped with, birthday gifts, and Christmas presents I'd funded for extended family gatherings at this house. I thought about the group chat messages, the laughter, the casual dismissal of my feelings, my finances, my entire existence as anything more than a funding source. I thought about my father, who'd taught me to work hard and be responsible, who'd told me family was important, but that respect went both ways, who died before he could see how his death would reshape our family into something he never would have recognized. I made my decision. That evening, I filed the notice of intent to sell with my attorney, formally citing financial malfeasance and fraud. He prepared all the necessary legal documentation, sent the required notices to the address of record, which was the house itself. My mother wouldn't see those notices because she was in Iceland. By the time she returned, the legal waiting period would have passed. The next morning, Janet listed the house. Professional photos, detailed description, virtual tour. It went live on the multiple listing service at 9 in the morning. By noon, we had 3 showing requests. By 5 in the evening, we had 2 offers. By the next afternoon, we had 5 offers total. The highest was an all-cash offer from a young couple for $430,000, $10,000 over asking price. Janet called me with their story. They were expecting their first baby in 3 months, had lost their previous house deal when the inspection revealed foundation issues, and were desperate to settle somewhere before the baby arrived. They were pre-approved, had cash in hand, and wanted to close as quickly as possible. They could close in 2 weeks. I accepted their offer. The next 12 days moved like a dream I was watching from outside my own body. I signed papers. I coordinated with inspectors. I approved repairs for minor issues found during inspection. I did everything remotely, efficiently, the way I'd learned to handle complex transactions in my professional life. I hired a moving company. I gave them specific instructions. Pack everything in the house that belonged to my mother and Brielle. I provided a detailed list, went through the house with the movers, pointed out what was mine versus what was theirs. The furniture I'd purchased, I arranged to have moved to a storage unit under my name. Everything else, all their belongings, went to a separate climate-controlled storage unit. I rented that unit for 3 months, paid up front. I photographed everything before it was packed, created a detailed inventory with timestamps, documented every single item. I kept only what was legally and clearly mine. Items I'd purchased with my own money, with receipts to prove it. Gifts that had been given specifically to me. My father's watch that had been left to me in his will. One of the few things I had left of him. I worked methodically, without emotion, like I was closing a business transaction rather than dismantling my family home. Meanwhile, I watched their social media posts. My mother had made her Instagram public, and Brielle posted constantly. They were having the time of their lives. Photos of the Blue Lagoon, my mother and Brielle in matching robes, champagne glasses raised. Videos of the northern lights dancing across the sky. Brielle's voice saying, "This is what healing looks like." A post from Aunt Patricia at a 5-star restaurant. When your sister knows how to plan the perfect trip. Brielle at a private spa. Cucumber slices on her eyes. Self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary. My mother commenting on every post. My baby deserves the world. So proud of you for taking time for yourself. This is what family is for. Comments from people I'd known growing up. Family, friends, distant relatives. You raised her right. What a blessing to have such a close family. Brielle. Enjoy every moment. Every few days, I received texts from my mother. Short, dismissive messages, clearly sent between activities. Hope you're not still upset. We'll talk when we get back. Don't be dramatic. Your sister is doing so much better. This trip was exactly what she needed. Try to be happy for family, instead of always focused on money. I didn't respond to any of them. My best friend Caroline called me on day 7 of the selling process. We'd known each other since college, and she was one of the few people who knew my whole history with my family. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I'm selling the house," I told her. Silence on the line. Then, "The family house? Your mom's house?" "My house. That I co-own. That I paid for." I told her everything. The credit card charges, the group chat, the planned deed fraud, the $85,000, all of it. More silence. Then Caroline said quietly, "They're still your family, though. Are you sure about this?" I'd been expecting that question, dreading it. "Can I show you something?" I asked. We met for coffee an hour later. I showed her screenshots of the group chat messages, the attorney consultation notes, the credit card statement, Brielle's journal entry. Caroline read through everything, her expression shifting from concern to shock to anger. When she looked up, her eyes were fierce. "Sell the house," she said. "Sell it today if you can." 3 days before closing, I had a moment of doubt. It hit me at 11 at night, sudden and overwhelming. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and suddenly all I could think about was Christmas mornings in that house. The time Brielle and I had baked cookies together and burned half of them, laughing until we cried. My father's chair in the corner of the living room, empty but still somehow his. The house held memories. Good ones. Before everything got complicated. Before he died. Before I became the family ATM. Before Brielle became the golden child, who could do no wrong. Before my mother decided that my success meant I owed everyone everything. I got out of bed, got in my car, and drove to the house at midnight. I sat outside in my car, looking at the dark windows, the porch light I'd replaced last spring, the lawn I'd mowed dozens of times when my mother's mower broke and she couldn't afford a new one. I let myself cry. Real, deep sobs that I'd been holding back for 12 days. Then my phone buzzed. A notification. Brielle had posted a new video on social media. I almost didn't watch it, but something made me click. It was Brielle at another luxury spa, this one with a view of mountains and glaciers. She was in a plush white robe, face mask on, cucumber water in hand. The video was a slow pan of the surroundings, then back to her face. "When your family loves you enough to make sure you're taken care of," she said to the camera. "Not everyone is so lucky. Some people are just takers who don't understand what it means to give without expecting anything in return." Grateful for the givers in my life. The video had 63 likes, 20 comments praising her, talking about self-worth and boundaries, and knowing your value. I sat in my car, watching that video 3 times. My doubt evaporated like steam. I drove home, slept soundly for the first time in 2 weeks, and woke up ready for closing day. The title company office was cold and sterile, all glass and chrome and paperwork. I sat across from the buyers, a couple named Sarah and Thomas, who couldn't have been more than 30. Sarah was visibly pregnant, her hand resting on her belly, her face bright with excitement and relief. "We can't thank you enough," Thomas said as we signed page after page. "We were starting to think we'd never find a place before the baby came." "I'm glad it worked out," I told them, and I meant it. At least something good would come from this situation. A family would have a home. A baby would have a nursery. The closing took 2 hours. When it was done, I walked out with a check for $142,000. After mortgage payoff, agent fees, closing costs, and various other expenses, that's what remained of my share. I went directly to my bank and deposited the check. Then I paid off the entire $85,000 credit card balance. Every penny of that Iceland trip, gone from my debt, in one transaction. That left me with $57,000. Not the $150,000 I'd initially calculated, but enough. Enough to rebuild. Enough to start over. Enough to prove I could survive without them. Before the new owners took possession the following week, I had one more task. I went to the house one final time. The locks hadn't been changed yet. I let myself in, walk through the empty rooms one last time. The movers had done their job well. Everything was gone except the built-in fixtures and appliances that stayed with the house. I placed an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a letter I'd written and rewritten a dozen times, trying to find the right words. I'd finally settled on simple and factual. Mom, the house has been sold. I exercised my legal right as co-owner to initiate the sale after discovering the unauthorized use of my credit card, which constitutes financial fraud under our co-ownership agreement. All of your belongings and Brielle's have been moved to a storage unit at 2847 South Broadway, Unit 156. The access code is 8734. The unit is paid through the end of the year. I've kept only items that are legally mine, with documentation to support ownership. I will no longer be financially supporting the family in any capacity. Any further contact should go through my attorney, whose information is below. The unauthorized charges have been paid in full from my portion of the house sale proceeds. You are entitled to your share of the remaining equity, minus your portion of the mortgage payoff and relevant expenses. My attorney will be in contact regarding distribution of funds. I included my attorney's business card and copies of all relevant documents. The co-ownership agreement with the fraud clause highlighted. Receipts from my down payment and major home improvements. The credit card statement. Everything legal, documented, irrefutable. I left my house key on the counter next to the envelope. I walked out, closed the door behind me, and didn't look back. That evening I went to Caroline's house. I brought wine. We sat on her couch, and I finally let myself feel everything I'd been pushing down for 2 weeks. Relief, grief, anger, freedom, loss, all of it tangled together. You did the right thing, Caroline said, her arm around my shoulders. Then why does it hurt so much? I asked. Because you loved them, she said simply. And they didn't love you back the same way. That always hurts, no matter how right your decision is. The next day was the day they were scheduled to return. I knew their flight information from the itineraries I'd found. They'd land at 5:30 in the evening, Denver time. I turned my phone off. I didn't want to watch it happen in real time. When I turned it back on at 10 that night, my phone exploded with notifications. 47 missed calls from my mother. 33 from Brielle. 15 from Aunt Patricia. Dozens of texts ranging from confusion to rage. My mother's voicemail started calm. Madeline, there must be some mistake. Call me back immediately. Then confused. The key doesn't work. What's going on? Why are your things gone? Then panicked. Someone robbed the house. We need to call the police. Where are you? Then angry. I found your note. How could you do this? Call me right now. Then furious. You sold our house? You had no right. This is insane. You're going to regret this. Brielle's texts were vicious from the start. What did you do? You're insane. You've always been jealous of me. This is sick. Mom is crying. How can you do this to your own mother? You've ruined everything. Everyone's going to know what kind of person you really are. We have nowhere to go tonight. Are you happy now? I read through them all, sitting on my couch with a cup of tea, feeling strangely calm. I blocked all their numbers. Every single one. I knew they wouldn't stop there, but I needed space to breathe. That night, around midnight, my apartment building's intercom buzzed. I checked the camera. My mother and Brielle stood outside, suitcases at their feet, looking exhausted and furious. The buzzer rang again, and again, and again. I didn't answer. My neighbor across the hall, an older man named Gerald who I'd helped with his groceries a few times, texted me. Are you okay? Should I call the police? There are 2 women outside causing a scene. I texted back. No thank you, Gerald. They'll leave eventually. They did, after an hour of buzzing and shouting into the intercom. I watched on the camera as they finally gave up, dragged their suitcases back to a car I didn't recognize, probably a rental, and drove away. I went to bed and slept better than I had in months. 2 days later, I received an email. Not from my mother or Brielle, but from Aunt Patricia. The subject line was simple. I'm sorry. I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity won. Madeline, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I knew what we were doing was wrong. I got caught up in the planning and the excitement, and your mother can be very persuasive when she wants to be. That's not an excuse. I'm a grown woman, and I made my own choice to participate in something I knew was hurting you. I've been talking to your mother since we got back. She's talking about suing you, trying to get a lawyer to go after you for selling the house. I looked into it for her, and there's no case. You had every legal right to do what you did. She doesn't want to hear it. There's something else you should know. Your mother has been seeing someone, a man she met online about 8 months ago. His name is Richard. I met him once. He's not a good person, Madeline. He's been encouraging her to take advantage of your success, telling her that you owe the family, that successful children have an obligation to support their parents, that you're selfish for having boundaries. He was supposed to move into the house next month. He's been unemployed for 3 years and was looking for someone to take care of him. Your mother thought he loved her. When she told him the house was sold and she had nowhere to live, he stopped answering her calls. I think you selling the house saved her from something much worse down the line, even if she can't see it now. I know this doesn't change what I did. I participated in stealing from you. I sat in first class drinking champagne on your money while you were working hard to build your life. I'm ashamed. I won't contact you again unless you want me to. But I needed you to know the truth about Richard and to tell you that I'm sorry. Patricia. I read the email 3 times. Then I saved it in a folder and closed my laptop. The revelation about this Richard person should have made me angry. Instead, I just felt tired and sad. My mother had been looking for someone to rely on, and she'd found a con artist. She'd pushed away the daughter who actually cared about her in favor of a stranger who saw her as a mark. And even knowing that, even seeing the email from Patricia acknowledging the truth, I felt no desire to reach out and warn her or save her. She'd made her choices. She'd have to live with the consequences, just like I was living with mine. The next 3 weeks were a strange kind of warfare, a family civil war fought through text messages, phone calls, and social media posts. Extended family members I hadn't heard from in years suddenly had opinions. Some reached out angry, demanding to know how I could abandon my mother and sister. Others were surprisingly supportive once they heard the full story. My father's brother, Uncle Grant, called me on a Tuesday evening. I hadn't spoken to him in almost 7 years. He'd had a falling out with my mother not long after my father died. Something about how she was raising us and managing money. She'd cut him out of our lives, and I'd been too young and too overwhelmed to fight her on it. Madeline, he said when I answered, his voice gruff but warm. I heard what happened. Took me a while to track down your number. I wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you. Your dad would be proud of you too. I started crying. I couldn't help it. Thank you, I managed. Your mother called me last week, he continued. First time in 7 years. She wanted me to talk sense into you, convince you to give her money for a new place. I told her exactly what I told her 7 years ago. She's been taking advantage of you since your father died, turning you into a parent instead of letting you be a kid, and she's been treating Brielle like a princess who deserves everything without working for it. That's why we stopped speaking. I couldn't watch it anymore. He told me stories I'd never heard. How my mother had always favored Brielle, even when my father was alive. How he'd argued with her about it, tried to make her see that she was creating an unhealthy dynamic. How my father had tried too. Gently. But my mother dismissed him. Your dad worried about you, Uncle Grant said. He saw how responsible you were, how much you took on, and he worried you'd spend your whole life taking care of everyone else and forget to take care of yourself. Sounds like that's exactly what happened. We talked for an hour. He lived in Montana now, ran a small construction business, had remarried, and had 2 teenage stepchildren. He invited me to visit any time. He offered support, both emotional and practical. He gave me his number and made me promise to use it. You're not alone, he said before we hung up. You've got family who sees you for who you really are. That conversation changed something in me. I'd felt so isolated, like I was betraying some sacred family bond by protecting myself. Uncle Grant reminded me that family was supposed to protect each other, not just take. Meanwhile, my mother tried a different strategy. She started posting on social media, carefully crafted posts designed to paint herself as the victim. When your own daughter abandons you and leaves you homeless, you learn who really matters in life. Some children forget where they came from and who sacrificed for them, heartbroken over family betrayal, praying for guidance. Brielle joined in with her own posts. Family means nothing to some people. Success and money become more important than love. When your sister chooses revenge over reconciliation, homeless because of cruelty. But we'll survive. We always do. For a few days, they got the sympathy they wanted. Comments poured in from people who didn't know the full story. So sorry for what you're going through. Family should stick together. Sending prayers. But then the tide started to turn. Caroline posted a comment on one of my mother's posts. Interesting perspective. Maybe you should tell people about the $85,000 you charged to Madeleine's credit card without permission for a luxury vacation to Iceland while she was working 60-hour weeks to pay bills. Context matters. Other people who knew the real story started speaking up. A former neighbor who'd watched me pay for house repairs while my mother went shopping. A high school friend who remembered me working multiple jobs to help support the family while Brielle got a car for her 16th birthday. Uncle Grant posted on Brielle's page. Your sister paid for the house you're claiming she stole. She put down $30,000 and made half the mortgage payments for 5 years. She had every legal right to sell. Maybe take some responsibility for your own choices. The narrative my mother tried to create crumbled. People started questioning. The supportive comments turned into criticism. There's clearly more to this story. If she sold the house, it must have been in her name too. Maybe we should hear both sides. My mother deleted all the posts within 48 hours. Through Uncle Grant, I learned that my mother and Brielle had found an apartment. A small 2-bedroom in a less desirable part of town, month-to-month lease. Nothing like the house they'd lost. My mother had to use her share of the house proceeds for deposit and first month's rent. She'd gotten her portion, roughly $80,000 after the attorney sorted through all the finances and deductions. The mysterious Richard, the boyfriend who was supposed to move in and be supported, had vanished completely the moment he learned there was no house and no free ride. Aunt Patricia quietly distanced herself from my mother. I heard through family gossip that she'd apologized to other relatives for her part in the Iceland trip, that she was ashamed of what they'd done. My cousin Dylan reached out via email. He was 19, in his second year of community college, working part-time at a sporting goods store. Madeleine, I don't know if you'll even read this, but I need to try. I'm so sorry for what happened. I didn't fully understand what was going on with the trip. Your mom told me you'd agreed to help pay for it as a gift for Brielle, that you wanted to do something nice for the family. I know that sounds stupid now, but I believed her. I was just excited about going to Iceland. I'd never been anywhere like that. When we got back, and I found out the truth, that you didn't know, that it was your money taken without permission, I felt sick. I tried to talk to Aunt Helen about it, but she just got angry and said I didn't understand adult situations. I do understand, though. What they did was theft. What I did, even if I didn't know the full story, was benefit from theft. I'm working on paying you back. I know the trip cost way more than I can afford right now, but I'm saving every extra dollar. I figure my portion of the trip was about $20,000. I'll send you what I can when I can. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know that I see what happened and I'm sorry. I sat with that email for a long time. Dylan had been manipulated too, fed lies by my mother to get his participation. He was young, trusting, and had believed what he was told by an adult he respected. I wrote back, Dylan, thank you for reaching out. I don't blame you for what happened. You were lied to, and you believed someone you trusted. That's not your fault. You don't owe me any money. Your aunt manipulated all of us in different ways. Focus on school and building your own life. Learn from this, and be careful about who you trust. That's enough. His response came an hour later. Just 2 words. Thank you. 1 month after the house sale, I received a certified letter from a law firm. My mother was suing for her half of the house proceeds, claiming I'd defrauded her by selling without proper notice and consultation. My attorney responded with a comprehensive package: the co-ownership agreement with the fraud clause, documentation of the unauthorized credit card charges, the group chat messages, the consultation with the attorney about removing me from the deed, my receipts for the down payment and improvements, proof that my mother had received her legal share of the equity. The lawsuit was dropped 2 weeks later. Then, on a random Thursday evening 6 weeks after everything fell apart, I received a letter in my mailbox. Not email. An actual handwritten letter. My name and address in familiar looping handwriting. Brielle. I almost threw it away without reading it, but something stopped me. I opened it. Madeline, I don't know if you'll read this or if you'll just tear it up. I wouldn't blame you if you did. I've spent the last 6 weeks thinking about everything that happened, and I need to say some things even if you never respond. You were right. About all of it. I've been living in Mom's shadow my whole life, always comparing myself to you, always feeling like I wasn't good enough. You had the good grades, the good job, the respect of everyone around you. I had nothing but a series of failures and bad choices. The Iceland trip was supposed to prove something, that I was worth something, that I deserved beautiful things and amazing experiences just like successful people do, but it didn't prove anything except that I've been lying to myself for years. I let Mom convince me that you owed us something because you were successful, that your success came easy, and my struggles were harder. So you should pay for my healing and happiness. None of that is true. Your success came from working your tail off while I bounced between jobs and made excuses. You earned everything you have. I've earned nothing. The trip to Iceland was beautiful and empty. I spent 2 weeks in luxury, and all I could think about was how it was bought with stolen money, how you were probably finding out and hurting, how I'd convinced myself that I deserved it when I did nothing to earn it. I came home to no house and realized that I'd lost something much more important than a place to live. I lost my sister, the one person who always helped me, always believed in me, even when I didn't deserve it. Mom is angry. She's convinced you're the villain in this story, that you betrayed us. She won't listen when I try to tell her we're the ones who betrayed you. I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to stand up to her the way you did. I'm still figuring out who I am when I'm not hiding behind her excuses. I got a full-time job. It's just retail, but it's 40 hours a week, and I'm showing up every day. I moved out of the apartment we were sharing. I have a roommate situation now. 3 girls in a small place. But it's mine, and I'm paying for it myself. I'm trying to figure out how to be an adult instead of a victim. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand. You were always the strong one, and instead of learning from you, I resented you for it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If you never want to speak to me again, I'll understand. But if someday you're ever willing to get coffee or just talk, I'd like that. I'd like to know my sister as a person, not just as the ATM I turned you into. Love, Brielle. I read the letter 3 times, sitting on my couch with tears running down my face. It didn't fix everything. One letter couldn't undo years of hurt and betrayal, but it was a start, an acknowledgement, a tiny seed of hope that maybe, someday, we could rebuild something real. I wasn't ready to respond yet, but I folded the letter carefully and put it in my desk drawer. Maybe someday. 6 months have passed since I sold the house. I'm sitting in my apartment, which I finally made into a real home, instead of just a place to sleep between work shifts. I used some of the remaining money to buy actual furniture that I love, art for the walls, plants that I managed to keep alive, small things that make the space feel like mine. 3 months ago, I took a week off work and drove to Colorado Springs alone. I hiked trails I'd never explored, watched sunrises from mountain peaks, sat in quiet restaurants with books, and didn't talk to anyone. I learned what it felt like to spend money on myself without guilt, to take up space without apologizing, to exist without being needed. It was terrifying and wonderful and necessary. I started therapy 2 months ago. Every Thursday at 6, I sit in a comfortable office and talk about codependency, family trauma, boundaries, self-worth. I'm learning that the patterns I thought were love were actually chains I'd wrapped around myself. I'm learning to recognize my own value beyond what I can provide for others. Uncle Grant has become a consistent presence in my life. We talk on the phone every couple of weeks. I drove to Montana last month to visit him, met his wife and stepkids, helped him build a deck on his house. He told me stories about my father I'd never heard, showed me photos from before I was born. I'm rebuilding a connection to my dad through the brother who loved him. Dylan texts me occasionally with updates on his life. He made the dean's list last semester. He's working 2 jobs now, saving for a car. He's building a life based on his own effort, and I'm proud of him. Aunt Patricia sent me a Christmas card with a long handwritten note. A real apology, specific and accountable. An acknowledgement that she was wrong, that she let loyalty to her sister override her own moral compass. I appreciated it. I'm not ready for a relationship with her yet, but I appreciated the honesty. I haven't spoken to my mother. Through the family grapevine, I know she's struggling financially, working longer hours, living in that small apartment. Part of me feels sad about that. The larger part feels free. I started seeing someone 2 months ago. His name is Andrew, and he's a high school teacher I met through Caroline. When I told him my story on our 3rd date, preparing for judgment, or for him to think I was cold, he looked at me and said, "You did what you had to do." That takes real courage. We're taking things slow, building something based on mutual respect and reciprocity. He pays for dinner sometimes. I pay sometimes. We split movie tickets. We have conversations about boundaries and expectations. It feels foreign and healthy and good. Brielle and I have exchanged a few emails. Short, careful messages testing the waters. She's still working, still living with roommates, still trying to figure out who she is separate from our mother. I'm not ready to see her in person yet, but I'm open to the possibility that someday we might rebuild something real. Last week, I was going through old boxes in my closet and found a photo album from my childhood. Pictures of our family before Dad died. There's one photo of him and me at my high school graduation. I'm wearing my cap and gown, holding my diploma, smiling so wide. He has his arm around my shoulders, looking at me with such pride. I remember that day. I remember him pulling me aside before the ceremony and telling me something I'd forgotten until I saw this photo. "Madeline," he'd said, "I want you to remember something. Being family doesn't give people the right to hurt you. Love is shown through actions, not just words. Don't ever let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. You have a kind heart, and people will try to take advantage of that. Don't let them. Be generous, but know when to walk away." I was 16. I didn't really understand what he meant. Now, at 32, I finally do. I've thought about reaching out to my mother, about trying to explain or reconcile or find some middle ground. But every time I consider it, I remember the group chat messages, the laughter, the casual cruelty, the way they saw me as a resource instead of a person. Maybe someday she'll understand what she lost. Maybe she won't. Either way, it's not my responsibility to make her see it. I'm building a life based on different principles now. Mutual respect, clear boundaries, reciprocal relationships, where people give and receive in balance, where love is shown through consideration and care, not just taking. The $57,000 I have left from the house sale is sitting in a retirement account, growing. I'm back to saving for my own future, my own home eventually, my own dreams that I'd put on hold for so long. I've learned that sometimes love means letting go. That financial generosity without boundaries isn't helping, it's enabling. That I deserve relationships where I'm valued for who I am, not what I can provide. I've learned that saying no doesn't make me selfish. It makes me strong. I've learned that family is supposed to be a source of support, not a drain on resources and energy. Most importantly, I've learned that I'm worth protecting. My time, my money, my emotional energy, my peace, all of it is valuable. And I get to decide how to spend it. If I could talk to someone else in a similar situation, someone being used and manipulated by family who sees them as an ATM, here's what I'd say. Family isn't supposed to be a hierarchy where some people give and others only take. Real love is reciprocal. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And when protecting yourself means walking away, walk away without guilt. You're not abandoning them. You're saving yourself. There's no shame in that. There's only strength. Last night, I made dinner for myself in my small kitchen. Just pasta and vegetables, nothing fancy. I ate at my little table by the window, looking out at the Denver skyline as the sun set. Simply, quiet, peaceful. For the first time in as long as I can remember, I felt completely content. Not waiting for someone to need something. Not bracing for the next crisis. Not calculating how much I could afford to give away. Just content. Tomorrow, I'm meeting Caroline for brunch, then going to a pottery class I signed up for. Next weekend, Andrew and I are driving to Boulder for a hiking trip. Small, simple joys that I'm building into a life that's truly mine. I look at that photo of my dad one more time before I put the album away. I finally get it, Dad, I whisper. I finally understand. And in the quiet of my apartment, in the life I'm building one choice at a time, I feel him smiling. That's enough. More than enough. It's everything. So, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting yourself? How did you handle it? And do you think you made the right choice? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to hear more stories about real people navigating difficult family situations. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there realize that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Take care of yourselves, and remember that you deserve relationships that honor your worth.